Okay, everybody.
Copy?
It all in.
Okay, good.
Hell no. Okay, I'd like to call to order today's special meeting, November 21. Commissioner Rhodey, will you open in prayer for us?
Sure. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this beautiful fall that you've given us. And as we move into winter, we just thank you for how you display your love for us in the world that you created. Pray that you would help us today as we take up the topic of community mental health, that you would help us to have the best interest of our people in mind, and that we would make decisions that are protective of the most vulnerable among us. In your name, amen.
Amen. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rachel?
Mr. Barry,
Here.
Mr. Georgsma,
Here.
Mr. Zylstra.
Here.
Mr. Bonema, Mr. Moss,
Here.
Mrs. Wenzel.
Here.
Mr. Teeples,
Here.
Mrs. Rhodey,
Here.
Mr. Kyers, Mr. Bruger,
Here.
Mrs. Medema.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have correspondence? Anything?
None
Nothing?
from us.
Okay, this is the first time for public comment. Anyone like to come address the board? Welcome to do so. Please just identify your name and where you live. And
My name is William Pettit. I live at 526 Monroe Avenue, Grand Haven, Michigan. Just moved here in June. I'm here to speak about the proposed motion to go into closed session and urge the commission not to. By way of background, I served with the Michigan Attorney General's office for 24 years. In that time, I was the assigned counsel to the Michigan Finance Authority and its predecessor authorities. So I am familiar with the OMA and representing a body such as this. I represented the authority at their meetings, gave background information to them, legal advice to them, drafted their rules, and represented the authority in literally hundreds of bond transactions. Let me say, for the benefit of the audience as well as the commissioners, that closed sessions are not normal. In my 24 years in the AG's office representing the Michigan Finance Authority and its predecessor's authority, we did not hold a single closed session. The stated reason for the closed session is Section 8H of the OMA, to consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute. From the notice of the proposed motion, we have no idea which state or federal statute is being referenced or asserted in this case. Normally, a closed session with counsel would be for litigation strategy purposes. That's not the case here. You should also know that the Michigan Supreme Court has held that review of a legal memo is not in and of itself a reason to go into a closed session. So I just want to urge you, given what I believe to be the subject of the closed session, not to do it. Those are matters that you will be dealing with that are of public interest and very important to the citizens of Ottawa County. And it should, if there is a discussion about these sorts of matters, should be held in open session. The OMA was created for a reason. Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else like to address the board?
Good morning, Commissioners. Rebecca Patrick, Allendale. We know a few things this morning that might be applicable to this special meeting. We know that you might be discussing a proposal to convert the county's CMH program from a county agency to a standalone authority, severing it from its relationship to the county. We also know that you might be discussing the fact that CMH may have a major $5.2 million deficit from fiscal year 25, although those books aren't closed yet. We know that there's a lot of uncertainty around CMH right now. We also know there's a lot of very understandable public interest in any discussions about the future of CMH. So what we don't know is why, given all of this, you would choose to conduct this meeting in closed session. I would ask you to reflect on the following questions before you make that decision. First, is it not in the public interest for us, the public, to know the details of your discussion on CMH funding at the earliest possible moment? Second, if you are discussing rationale for converting CMH to a standalone authority, will you at a later time be releasing all or most of this rationale if you decide to act on it? And if so, should you not release it now? Why the delay? Third, you have very recently waived attorney-client privilege on the Wolf documents. What is the legal issue that you will discuss for which privacy is so compelling that it outweighs the public's interest in knowing and understanding it? Several of you have, in the very recent past, expressed that you place a high value on doing the board's business in public rather than behind closed doors. Others of you have spoken repeatedly during your campaigns and since then of your desire to rebuild public trust in the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners. I believe that you meant it when you said these things. So I would ask, if you value the principles of public participation, transparency, and fostering public trust, that you reconsider what appears to be your intention to discuss, out of public view, a major change to how the county structures CMH or a means of addressing a major deficit in CMH's budget. Let us in on the plan. Let us see and hear your discussion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Oliver Champagne, Grand Haven. I want to echo just the first two statements. And I'd appreciate if the commissioners weren't on their phones during public comment. But as I can see that you're not afforded to do your job right, that's all right.
Please address your comments to me, please.
I think all of the commissioners should be off their phones and be listening to public comment. It's their job. Now, all of these commissioners, as already been stated, have ran on issues of transparency. What is transparent about your current process right now? It's a special session, so you know less people are going to show up. And it's an important topic that a lot of people care about. Apparently, Republicans, which the majority of you are, love it. Mental health's important. But how important is it to you guys? To shift it to an authority? What's the mission there? Because in the reality, it means less funding, likely less staff, and less positive impacts. I can speak from experience that the community mental health programs that we have here in Ottawa County are exceptional. They've saved lives. They've helped save my life. They give so many different avenues and supports, and they help people, a lot of people that wouldn't be able to afford those services without CMH. So you have important decisions ahead of you, and I'm rather disappointed. I was busy earlier, so I didn't get to make the other meeting, but I'm rather disappointed that this isn't a full meeting. I'd question, where is Jacob Bonema? I'd question, where is Phil Kyers? Were they here earlier? And why couldn't they make it to this? because this is pretty important. And not to talk about the elephant in the room, but I really wish they were here because I'm concerned about some of the members here that would rather sit on their phone than listen to public comment. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Good morning. I'm Melanie Skolton from Park Township. And I want to echo some of the things that have been said previously. I am hoping that you will go into detail here today about the need for both the special meeting and the closed session. So far, I don't see how either are warranted, so perhaps there's reasoning you can tell us about. And, you know, the past few weeks have shown us that this body has had some trouble in the past using these things appropriately. So just want to indicate that trust is very important, and it's not been a strong suit in the last 2 or 3 years. So I'm hoping that you will take that to heart and try to gain some of that trust back for us. I'm also curious if there is an update on renewing the mental health millage that expires next year. We haven't heard any talks of if that's just going to be let expire or if there's going to be any further talks of trying to renew that sort of thing. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning, Karen Obitz, Spring Lake. I wasn't planning to speak, but I've been thinking about this for a while. You know, many of us are aware of just how many things there are for us to be paying attention to. So many things are shifting under our feet. It's really hard to keep track of all of the different decisions that are made way up above us and yet have an impact on us eventually. So of all places where we have a greater window into decisions that are made that more directly impact us, that would be before this body and our individual municipality governments. And so I would urge you to consider, as has been said here already at this microphone this morning, the real importance of building and maintaining public trust. Here we will have this ability to hear what the body is thinking about very important decisions you might be making. So I would very strongly urge you to think about the value of having that kind of discussion in a public meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chantal Martineau, Park Township. I wasn't going to speak either, but I figured I might as well come up and echo some of the other comments made here, particularly Oliver. I'm wondering why this meeting is happening at all when there is a board meeting scheduled 2 business days from now that's been on the books since January. What is so urgent that you had to schedule a special meeting that apparently was given so little notice for that 2 of your members couldn't make the meeting, and that the public was not able to hear about enough in advance to be able to show up. So that's why I felt it was important to comment. Also, there's no packet for this meeting. There's no description of what, in fact, you will be discussing in closed session. And as somebody who has observed the board closely, I think it's important that you keep the public informed of what, in fact, you are doing in the name of transparency. As Melanie alluded to, recently there's been a lot in the news about what has happened in previous closed session meetings that the board chair brought something to the commissioners that none of them had any previous knowledge of, and they were forced to make a very significant financial decision in the course of those few hours that they didn't have adequate information to make. So I would urge you to not go into closed session and discuss whatever it is that needs to be discussed in the view of the public whose interest you serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sheila Detloff, Holland Township. I think you're all familiar with the term trust but verify. And I would like that to be our go-to. At the moment, I'm not sure that we can be in that position. you'll forgive us for being a little bit gun shy as far as closed sessions and financial discussions go, given the history of the board. The one thing I do want to point out is that I don't see corporation counsel here. Perhaps you have substitute counsel available, but I am concerned that you would go ahead with something like this without our official corporation counsel present. Thank you.
Thank you. Virginia, anyone else? Okay, let's move on then. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, need a motion to approve the consent resolution dealing with the minutes of the board.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the consent resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next one is the action item to go into closed session for the purpose of considering the opinion by council on state CMH funding pursuant to OMA Section 8H. Need a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Okay, discussion.
Could I make an amendment? Just to insert the word written opinion.
Okay,
So my motion would be to add the word written in front of the word opinion.
any other, second on Joe's amendment?
Support.
Any comment on Joe's? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Going back to the original motion to go into closed session, any other discussion?
I have some questions on this. Ron Bolche isn't here. I see Doug Van Essen is here. If we can, I guess I'd like a little more background on how the opinion was put together, compelling nature to go into closed session. At this point, I don't know, we have to go into details, but I think I would appreciate a little more discussion on how we are here and what we're going to be taking a look at.
Patrick, you want to hit that one?
Yeah, so with regard to the opinion, Mr. Van Essen was directed to write the opinion. So it was prudent that he be here to be able to describe the opinion in lieu of Mr. Bolche. Mr. Bolche was aware of this work being done and working in coordination with Mr. Van Essen, but that's why Mr. Bolche's not here. Mr. Van Essen is who is prepared to go into the closed session with us.
Okay. Can we talk about compelling need to go into closed session as opposed to having this as public discussion?
Yeah, and it was rightly pointed out that there's several reasons that you can go into closed session under the Open Meetings Act. I think there are 12 exceptions to allow us to do that. The one we're considering today is to consider, as was pointed out, materially exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute. And to kind of explain that, there are a few kind of examples of when you would do that. One that was brought up was potential or threatened litigation. That's one reason you would do it. Another is interpretation of laws or regulations affecting the body. One are compliance issues with zoning, employment, or law contracts. Another is risk management assessments as it relates to the organization. And another is legal consequences of contemplated actions. So those reasons, or a portion of those reasons, are outlined in the opinion that we're going to be discussing today.
Okay.
Do we need to grammatically change "and written opinion" to "a written opinion"?
I think that probably
I
is
know.
tied into
I think we're
Joe's
okay.
motion.
I think that was
Can you
my
make a roll vote?
my
Roll
motion.
call, Rachel?
We have a little bit
Oh,
more.
Elson?
This has been when I came to know about having a special meeting, I just wanted to let you know that I think some of the comments that were made here today were from public were ones that I'm guessing that many of us work through on our own, in our own homes and our own thoughts. And for example, one of the questions was brought up about why a special meeting was called. And I don't think we heard that from Patrick. And I think that would be really good for the public to hear that. I have a few more, but I'll start with that one.
The bottom line is we believe this is a time-sensitive conversation, and that's all I'll say. It is a pertinent conversation to have sooner than later. And even though it's a couple days, we thought this is a pertinent conversation to have as soon as possible.
Oh, all right, thank you. So that was one of the questions. I think some of the other things mentioned, and that I've had to go through on my own, in my own thought process, I think that there's reasons to decide for each of us of going into closed session, and there's reasons to entertain with staying here. And some of the things that I've thought about are protecting the public. I would say the image factor is a big one for me. So like staff, is there observing us? It would be the public that we serve. It's constituents that receive CMH services. And weighing out which one, if there's merit to going into a closed session first versus staying in the open. And while it wasn't a quick decision for me, I have personally decided that I think that there's more merit in staying here in the open and letting just everyone hear the discussion that takes place. And so I will be voting to stay, I'll be voting against this particular motion.
Anyone else? Okay, Rachel, could you take a roll call, please?
Mr. Moss,
Yes.
Mr. Barry,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey,
No.
Mr. Zylstra,
No.
Mrs. Wenzel,
No.
Mrs. Miedema,
No.
Mr. Georgezma,
Yes.
Mr. Bruger,
Yes.
Mr. Teeples.
Yes.
Motion fails.
Okay, so
So we were planning to do a presentation in closed session, a PowerPoint presentation, and our presenters were going to include myself, Doug Van Essen, Karen Karazinski, and Dr. Bashir's in the back. So I'd like to maybe just invite them up to find a seat to make this work. And Regina has the PowerPoint loaded up. While they're doing that, I'll just kind of give some background here. So after I was hired, kind of officially, I was coming in to meet with staff and department heads to kind of see, what are the big issues that the county's facing and challenge. So yeah, wherever you guys can get around. One of the issues that was brought to my attention right away was this concern about funding risk related to Medicaid as it relates to CMH services. And this is a long-standing issue that is my understanding that the county has talked about for a long time. We've looked at the opportunities of transitioning to an authority. As you'll see, we're one of very few counties that still run CMH as a department. And so the overwhelming message was to me, coming in, we should be looking at this. It's a big priority. The landscape is changing. It's changing very quickly, and it puts the county at risk for a number of reasons, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So I have asked Doug Van Essen, who between Doug and Dr. Bashir's, I think you have probably the two most knowledgeable subject experts in the state around CMH funding and law. So it would be appropriate for Mr. Van Essen to give that to draft this opinion, and the presentation that we're going to talk about kind of follows his findings and recommendations from that opinion. And then Dr. Bashir's, who held a closed session on this very same subject with his board 2 meetings ago, is here to kind of add context from his perspective. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to you, Doug.
Good morning.
I think that I was going to go next. So hold on one second.
Oh, you were. I'm sorry. I think.
Yeah. So authority versus CMH department. Since 1996, this has been the question. 1996 was the year the mental health code was changed to allow CMH county departments to become authorities. Before 1996, every single CMH in the state was a county department. Once managed care Medicaid hit, there were provisions, I know that Mr. Van Essen's going to talk about those, were put in the mental health code to allow counties to have their departments become authorities. Doesn't mean the county's not involved anymore. It's not a divorce. It's an arm's length arrangement for very good reasons. So this discussion in the CMH world's been happening for a long time, and the majority of CMHs became authorities by 2001. And there's a timeline we'll talk about that even now in the majority of CMHs, 91% are authorities and not departments. So from my perspective as the CMH director being back the last, I don't know, let's see, a year and 3 months, it's become clear that the same issues that were around in 96, 2000, and all the Medicaid issues have been exacerbated now to the point where the CMH department requires a lot of flexibility, to be nimble, to organize and operate the community mental health benefit for its constituencies with a lot more flexibility than we currently have as a county department. The county department models work great for us over the years, but there have been very specific tension points, this being one, to allow us to move to the very consistently ever-changing landscape of Medicaid funding. And with changes on the federal government to the state government related to that, this department is going to need the ability to pivot, be more flexible, decrease administrative burden, to ensure that the citizens of Ottawa County receive the mental health services they not only deserve, but they're entitled to. And so when you look at authority versus county department, there's a crosswalk and there are different how things would change. But the ask is for us to be able to do an impact analysis of what would be the impact if we did what the majority of CMHs have done already 15, 20 years ago. And is there legitimacy now to do that versus 2 years from now or a year from now? So I've been in support of assessing for us to become an authority because of the need to have flexibility, nimbleness, and to be able to run the organization to match where the system's going and to match Medicaid kind of managed care things. And I'll be done in a second in my opening remarks. The question to me is, can the county really be in the business of Medicaid managed care? Or is that more appropriate for an authority status, arm's length away, still connected to the county? It's not a sever, it's not a divorce at all. But at this time, I'm recommending the full investigation of this so that we can determine how we can better respond to the ever-changing landscapes so that I can keep my obligation to maintain the mental health benefit in the way that the citizens of Ottawa County deserve and in the way that 90%, the overwhelming majority of communities are managing the mental health budget. So I'd offer that as an opening remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Brashears. That first slide, Regina. I just want to assure the public that the issue today is not to debate a department versus an authority model. And the only reason we were going to go into closed session is to have perhaps more candid discussion about whether or not the board is even interested in starting the debate. Right. And if you go down that process, there will be 3 public hearings that have to be held where there will be an opportunity to debate the pros and cons with the community and amongst yourselves. And then a resolution would be passed before you create an authority. So it's a long public process to go down the road. Today is really just an introduction as to the alternative and whether you're even interested in starting that debate. And one of the reasons for discussing it in a special meeting and now, if we could have the second slide there, thank you, is because as one member of the public noted, we're out of fiscal year 24, 25, But we still, because of the managed care nature of this program, haven't closed the books for that year. We're not expecting any more revenue that year. And right now, it looks like we have a $5.5 million deficit, which is kind of an urgent matter to bring to your attention and maybe to start down this process. Moreover, anyone watching the news will realize that both the Republicans and now even the Democrat administration of our state are realizing that we can't continue to go on with Medicaid and Medicare as presently constructed. Increasingly, we are getting huge deficits at the federal level. And so there is going to be a tension. And even the Democratic administration is realizing that things cannot stay the same in this system. And they're proposing radical changes to the PIHP system because they realize that this entitlement program is challenging to the public fiscal state. Okay, so the likelihood that if we're having a problem now, we may have even bigger problems in the future is imminent. Okay? Now, before you adopted this year's budget, I sent 2 letters to the state of Michigan. And the first I said, we're happy to do your managed care for you. We just want you to clarify that should there be a deficit in that program, it is not our county taxpayers that are obligated to pick up your Medicaid responsibilities to the federal government. Crickets in response. I then upped the ante and said, we are now actively considering FY 25-26. And we need to know whether if we continue in these programs, you're going to be the underwriter should we have a deficit. And if you don't say that you're not going to be the underwriter, we don't want our citizens to suffer. We are going to appropriate and continue these programs on the assumption that if in this fiscal year we have a problem, you will be the underwriter. Crickets. I finally got something from the Attorney General's office saying we're looking at the legality that you presented in your letter because I offered a legal opinion that the general fund of Ottawa County, there's no authority for us to be the underwriter of an entitlement program. That's not what our taxpayers have signed up for. That's the problem the state's having because I believe that's true and I don't believe they have an effective counter to it. Nevertheless, for reasons I'll get to in a moment, we are still vulnerable if we continue to go forward. And even though I believe that legal opinion is correct, there are no guarantees when you get into the court system and you're dealing with highly politicized judges at the upper levels that the right decision's actually going to be made. And so you have to understand the risks that we have going forward and the statutory opportunity that we have to protect our taxpayers. Okay? Now, another reason for the urgency today. It takes 9 months to a year to convert to an authority. If that is the evolution of the debate that we are talking about starting, okay? Why is that important? Because we have to keep an eye on fiscal year 26-27. And if we want to go in this direction, if we want to take advantage of that statute, we've got to start the debate with the community. We've got to start the process because October 1 of 2026 will be on us before we know it. And there's a lot of work that we'll describe has to be done before we can get into that decision. If, after the public debate, you decide to go in that direction. So that is why we're here today. That's why now, okay? If I could have the next slide. Yeah,
Just a couple, just quick
Sure.
definition questions.
yeah.
Could one of you offer definitions for Medicaid managed care? I mean, I kind of know what that is, but can you be more specific? Is that the entirety of
If we
CMH?
could go to the next slide.
Sorry.
Commissioner Moss. No, that's great, because I'll take that question and I'll show you graphically the difference of these three. The green area that we have is our traditional CMH. We have provided services in this green category since 1945, okay? And this is counseling, it's a variety of different services that are very governmental in nature. We submit a budget. If the state approves it, it funds 90%, we fund 10%. Over time, as Dr. Brashears mentioned, we started getting into Medicaid. And then Medicaid went into managed care. Now, what is managed care? And Doc's going to laugh at me in a moment because I'm going to attempt to answer that question. But as I understand it, it is you get, if you have 300,000 people, you're going to get funding for each person. Now, the model is we get a certain amount of funding for everyone on Medicaid, okay? Within that funding, you have to provide certain entitlement services. And the obligation is on you to make that work. And if you can make it work and have a little bit of extra, you get to keep it, okay? But if you don't make it work, you have to absorb the deficit, okay? Now, to do that early on, we had something called an ISF, an internal service fund. So we would take our profits from one year, and if we had a deficit the next year, we could cover it. So when I say behavioral Medicaid, which is $52 million approximately last year, there is an ISF behind that. It's held by the LRE, not us anymore. But there is some reserved from the profits of the 7 counties into that. So if one county has a deficit, you have that bank, okay? So that's the concept of managed care. And if we have a 5.5 million or more deficit, we're going to ask the LRE to use its internal service fund to cover that. The concern is, do they have it? I'm not sure they do. Then what happens? Okay. Now, that's why in this slide, we call that $52 million moderate risk. Because of the managed care nature, there's risk. It's moderate because maybe there's an ISF to cover it. Maybe not. CCBHC is a new grant program where there is no reserve. You're given a certain amount of money, you have to provide a certain amount of services, and hopefully you'll be able to make it work. But as an entitlement program, if you take that money, you have to provide the service. And if you can't find people to do the service at a certain rate that you're expecting, you can have a deficit, and there's no LRE ISF or county ISF for the CCBHC program, high risk. Okay.
How long has that been running?
We applied for the grant 2 years ago.
It's a demonstration project now. We had a grant for a couple of years that SAMHSA put in to set it up. We're in the second year of a demonstration project. The state of Michigan has to renew this whole CCBHC demonstration project in 2027 with the federal government. Indications are we don't see any threats to it yet, but you never know. I would just add a couple things to the description of managed care. It's population health, but not in the way that one might traditionally think about it. So we're given 12 equal payments from this regional entity to provide the entire Medicaid service array. A lot of them are waiver programs for folks with significant disabilities. mentally ill, intellectually, developmentally disabled, and kids, or they call it severely and emotionally disturbed. I hate that title. It's kids with significant issues, mental health issues. And regardless of the number of people we serve, the revenue never changes. So we don't get paid what's called fee for service. We see a client, we draw down money, great. As long as your expenditures are in line with that, you're great. Here's what you're going to get for, say, 6% of the Medicaid population, right? And you have to meet all of their medically necessary needs with the same dollar amount. So the manage of it is managed to the degree that you can make that work. So it assumes that you're funded adequately in the revenue side to meet the benefit that you're managing. Unlike private sector managed care companies, we cannot deny care. I can't say, sorry, it's a benefit, we're not offering that benefit, these are entitlements. I must provide the service for any Medicaid recipient in that program that meet medical necessity regardless of revenue.
As long as they live in Ottawa.
Ottawa County, yes.
Okay.
Right. So the reality of a situation, it's not a traditional managed care model where you're able to restrict the benefit when resources are restricting. It is an entitlement program where we're agreeing to share the risk with the region and the state for this. And what Mr. Van Hessen was doing was clarifying with the state, like, we're in a risk arrangement, right? And they're kind of like, no answer, suggesting we'd be more fully at risk than we thought. So if this was a traditional managed care program, I could restrict the benefit, restrict the amount, scope, and duration of a service, saying, now we can only offer 11 of these versus 15. I cannot do that. I must use the entitlement guidelines and give the appropriate level of care. We have some clients where their benefit for one individual could be $1 million a year based on the type of services they need. Not a lot, but all you need is 3 of those and your budget's gone. So that's probably a more appropriate definition of managed care when you're talking about an entitlement. We've agreed to serve Ottawa County residents with the Medicaid benefit with 12 equal payments from the region, regardless of the number of people we serve. And that's key to the public to know. You know, like, we have to serve everybody. In fact, I've been at my CMH board members, and if you're in the public, please attend those. I went over the budget deficit this morning and stuff related to it. You know, for folks that get past our screening, 90% of the folks get accepted to CMH. You might have heard, boy, it's hard to get in. Well, once you get to assessment, past our initial screening period, you're getting into services primarily. And we don't have the ability to restrict care or limit care on funding alone. So it's a little bit different than traditional managed care. Prior health can do that. They can say the benefit's changing. We can't. It's an entitlement.
All right. Yeah, the next slide. You know, one of the things we wanted to talk about this morning is we've had this risk for quite a few years. You know, again, why now? Why are we so worried? Well, in 2018 was the last time that the system was strained like it is this year. Of the 5 counties that are departments, and there's only 5 of us left, 78 counties have an authority, okay? 3 of those counties, including Ottawa, had deficits in 2018. Ours was 2 million, Muskegon's was 12 million, and Washtenaw was 10 million. Now, we discussed this as 3 counties in this situation, and I told Muskegon and Washtenaw, whatever you do, do not pay this out of your general fund. Our position is we have no authority to take that money and spend it. Let's hold fast to that, because that will force a problem, but ultimately, that's our defense, is that the state's got to solve that problem, not us. Now, why was it just the 3 of us? because there's a state statute that says if you're an authority, you have no risk. Every other county that was facing a deficit was relaxed. They assumed the state would have to pick it up because there's a statute, which we're going to talk about, that gives them protection. But we were on the front line. Muskegon and Washtenaw, very different than Ottawa, okay? Caved, and they paid out of their general fund. They did what I think is illegal. Don't worry, guys, we're going to sue. Okay, we were able, Karen was able to loan some money from the millage, wait, because our deficit was smaller, we were able to eventually wipe it out, okay? Through Karen's expertise. So we didn't have quite the pressure they had. They sued. And what happened is, if you could go back to the other slide a minute, they basically said in that lawsuit, well, the only statute that allows us to be in the game is the statute on the green, the 90-10. And so you got to pick up 90% of this. Court of Appeals said it's a different program. That's not Medicaid mandate. You're out on that argument. Then they said, well, Headley protects us because this is all new stuff. And the Court of Appeals said, well, you paid. You voluntarily paid. They didn't dare make the argument that you need to make is we can't pay because they already paid. All right. So they lost that case. Yeah, Doug.
Yeah, could you kind of clarify what you mean by if you are an authority, you have no risk? What exactly does that mean?
I've cited in my opinion, but it's MCL 330, 1205. Long statute, section 6. And it-
Where in the opinion? And just as a side
yeah.
note, could
Yeah, yeah.
we get a motion to release this document? I mean, we did that in the Wolf documents. Could we do that in this one so that the
I
public?
would prefer that you not do that because we have the presentation, which is the guts of the importance for it, but I don't want my legal work to be publicly exposed right now, particularly because there's some confidential information in it. We're going through,
Okay.
Commissioner, the guts of it. That's interest to the
Okay.
public, okay? But we're in the, let's see, where do I have that statute? Right here. Oh, yeah, it's on page 3 of 5. It's under, at the bottom of the page, you will see that I've quoted that statute.
Right.
Okay, now, this was an inducement by the department, State Department, to encourage 78 of our brothers and sisters to go into an authority. And basically they said, economically, you'll be protected. You won't have any exposure. And so back in the 90s, I'm not sure they were thinking about the Medicaid deficits, but that's how it's been interpreted. And those counties decided we're going to go to this other authority model. They did it. I've helped 4 counties go through that process. They had different reasons for doing it. I can tell you that most of them at the time weren't the risk because they didn't really realize the risk. This entitlement risk has been brewing and brewing of more recent vintage. Most of these counties, the 78, have been authorities for 20 years.
So
right?
Just a quick follow-up on that. So you're saying that 330.1205 absolves of the authorities of all deficits? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's specifically saying it absolves the county
Correct.
government. If the county government does not have a CMH department, the county is absolved of the financial
That's not what
liability.
it's saying. I mean,
Yeah.
it's saying that the authority is not liable for negligence or any financial affairs, but that doesn't specifically say that it's not liable for deficits.
No.
Because
here,
if
let's read through it.
Okay.
Okay. A county that has created a mental health authority. So county is the noun, all right?
Right.
That's the actor. is not liable, and then we get into negligent acts and omissions, that's not relevant here, for any financial affairs or for any obligation of a community mental health authority, its board, its employees, representatives, or agents.
Okay.
What that means is the county general fund. You could substitute general fund right there for county.
But that's not what you said. You said if you are an authority, you have no risk. What you're saying right now is that the county doesn't have that risk. But what you said before is that the authority has no risk,
Oh, I'm
which
sorry, I missed.
I want to clarify your statement because that strikes me as an odd statement.
I misspoke. What I meant to say that if you have an authority, the county
Right.
general fund is not
Okay,
at risk.
but the authority is still at risk.
The authority is at risk,
We're
and
going to
I've got
clarify
a
that for you.
slide as to why we're not just selling Michael out temporarily here, and he's got problems in the future. There's a reason that in 2018, even the authorities were fairly relaxed because they knew that if the county general fund wasn't obligated to underwrite, and we don't have any money, the state is the only one left at the table that'll have to come forward. That's
I'll
why
just-
they were fat, dumb, and happy in 2018.
And I would add that because the authorities understood you're in a shared risk model, sharing the risk with the state. So under the shared risk model, it gets kind of in the weeds, Commissioner, I apologize. Under the shared risk model, if an authority has over expenditures over a certain over a certain amount, the state picks up the rest with these regional entities.
And that's for every authority.
Correct.
So authorities don't run deficits, is what you're saying.
They do, but.
But you just
the-
said that they don't.
Hold on, let me finish. You know, the majority of CMH authorities in the state run a deficit every year because the darn state hasn't funded the system appropriately. So that risk is shared with the regional entities, which the state wants to restructure, right? And the state. And so it's a partnership. And before, the authorities, now that are part of this new structure, has their rainy day fund at the regional level, right? So
As do we.
Yes, we do. So the issue at hand is as a county department, right? If we're a county department, the state has been less than clear on the expectation that county general fund would kick in before any shared risk, where when you're an authority, that's not even a question.
Right. But corporate
That's the
counsel,
difference.
corporate counsel's position since I've been here has been that our general fund is not at risk. Correct.
It's a
They
good position.
refused
Correct.
to confirm that. Yeah.
Right, but that's been your position since I've been a commissioner.
Absolutely, you're
Okay.
right, Doug. And I maintain that position.
Yeah.
But I can't guarantee you, after the Muskegon County lost their case, that someone, because it won't be me, because believe it or not, I am retiring soon, will be handling that for Ottawa County. I can't guarantee you're gonna win. And that's the concern, okay? Now, let me just mention the state gamesmanship here with ISFs. When we had 83 ISFs, 60 were doing fine.
Right.
Okay? And Wayne County, probably not so fine.
Mhm.
So rather than pay it out of the state's general fund, let's create 17 regional entities, suck up the good counties ISFs
Oh.
into 17. That worked so well that when they started having a problem with multiple PIHPs in 2018, they reduced it to 14.
Oh,
It's worked so well that they now want to reduce it to 3. Well, the only step after 3 is 1, and that's the state of Michigan, okay? But that's the kind of accounting games they've been playing with the system all along.
Well, that just answered a lot of my questions that I'd written down.
Yeah.
Now I understand what's going on. And I want to clarify something that you said, Dr. Bashirs. You mentioned a shared risk model. I believe we currently have a shared risk
Correct.
model. Our shared risk model as the county department is CMH to county. Is the risk is shared to the county potentially? Is that correct?
I'm trying to.
The authority, an authority model, there's a shared risk model with the authority to LREs in the state.
Yeah, we have that. We have that. The authority model, we have that by contract with the regional entity. What
Okay.
legal counsel's been trying to say is when push comes to shove, when there's a deficit and the region can no longer cover that part of the risk, the state is saying, well, you're a county department. You guys do it.
Right.
Or the authorities, that's not the case.
Well, so I would call that a shared risk model with the county, with the general fund. That's my opinion on what it looks like.
It's about who's the
That's
backstop.
That's the
Right.
concern.
Stop is the right way to put that.
Can I just add two pieces of information that might be helpful? One is that it's looking like the LRE could run out of that backup fund in 1 or 2 years because, so that's fact number one. The second fact would be, and I just lost it. Is that, the whole payment model is just wrong. So they're paying based on number of people who have Medicaid. They should be paying based on the needs presented.
Exactly.
And so the whole model, the whole funding model is wrong across the state. And until that is fixed, we're going to continue to have problems.
And just so you know, in 2018, before Muskegon County paid, it presented the bill to the LRE and the LRE said, we don't have the money to pay you. Okay, so what Commissioner Brody is mentioning happened in 18, where they ran out of money. They didn't have enough money and they got put in receivership for a while.
Who did?
The LRE. Yeah, Beacon tried to manage them for a while. They're back now. But the reality is they ran out. And then the county felt it had, because of this legal discrepancy that we have here, it felt they had to step forward and they paid it with their general fund. The next slide that we have is, and Dr. Brashears is going to take over that, just to explain why this behavioral Medicaid, those two red columns, are so risky. You need to understand that.
And I'm going to do it more of a narrative summary of the 7, not going point by point on this. I've also been told I can talk for a long time and make it quick. Like I mentioned before, our residents are entitled to the benefit. And so the entitlement benefits itself through the waiver program changes in terms of what's offered periodically with no additional funding. So that stretches it. Outside forces, including state and federal, DHHS, and administrative law, have control over the entitlement. I'll try to do this succinctly. If Ottawa CMH says to any recipient, hey, here's how much we're going to authorize of this service, say 100 units, and the family or the recipient says, I disagree, they can appeal it. And then it goes to the region and can eventually get to an administrative law judge that can say, regardless of what you've said, region or CMH, we're going to allow this increase in units and cost. These are judges doing this, not even, not based on medical necessity criteria. As a result, we have beneficiaries in Ottawa County. We have unique situations in our county where some of our services are fundamentally more expensive because administrative law judges have ruled in favor of our recipients to increases in their benefit. We have some clients that cost between $300,000 and $1 million a year because of that. Where in other CMHs around the state and don't have to base their benefit on those rulings. Only us, because it's applied to us. So Medicaid in its very nature is unstable. Even though there's an entitlement package that says, here's what you're eligible for, how much one gets is not uniform across the state and each of the CMH or regions. And this is one of the main reasons why the state wants to reform that PHP system, is because it shouldn't matter where you live. The benefit should be relatively the same and cost relatively the same, and it just isn't. So the very nature of Medicaid behavioral health managed care makes it risky for that level. And then primarily, the funding formula that's used really hurts Ottawa County. And the reason why is that our funding is based on the number of people on Medicaid in our county And there are different types of Medicaid: DABS, which is folks with severe disabilities; TANF, which is more people with economic challenges. And your CMH funding is based on those, and you get more money if you have DABS versus TANFs. We overwhelmingly have a larger percentage of people, thank goodness, on TANF versus DAB. But when you change the requirements to get on Medicaid based on income, and your county doesn't have as many people that need that assistance, it hurts our funding for those 12 equal payments. Even though we're serving the exact same amount of Medicaid recipients as our partners. We serve about 8% of the Medicaid population in Ottawa County. Muskegon is the same thing. Kent's the same thing, right? In our region, Allegan is the same thing. But our available Medicaid dollars to serve that 8%, that's not going to change, even if you change the Medicaid requirements, because they're very disabled, are the same. So it's very risky because you can't control the revenue, and you have an open door in dealing with the expense. And I was telling my board anywhere, you wouldn't run a business like this anywhere. And it's not about profit, by the way, that word was used. It's more about savings. And how do you reapply? Because you have to take any Medicaid savings and reapply it back into the system. And it's very difficult to do that in our system, where 9 out of the 10 PHPs are in a deficit as we speak. So, and then you have the federal administration saying, okay, let's look at Medicaid, right? Any change to the Medicaid benefit in terms of who is eligible will have a corresponding impact with the amount of resources that we have to, quote, manage care or manage that benefit. And as that shrinks, our resources shrink and our needs and costs actually gone up. So behavioral Medicaid is risky. And that's why the majority of counties in the state saying, we're not in the managed care business on Medicaid.
And again, the state uses those Medicaid numbers to determine how much money they give us.
That's right. So that's why the majority of CMHs, over 90%, have moved to an authority status versus a county department status, because those counties frankly have said, we're not in the managed care business.
So we have the next slide.
Before you, can you go back for a second? Can you move the video up just so I can read all of 7? Thank you.
That's the federal stuff I was talking about.
Thank you.
So here, now you need to move it down. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So what are the alternatives here? Well, number one is to just restrict our program to the green, right? Quit Medicaid and CCBHC. What would our residents that are relying on that do? I don't know if the state would then hire Muskegon County to serve them. I don't know if they would get lost. And then we have residents here who are not able to get their Medicaid entitlement because the only providing agency, Ottawa County, has gotten out of the business. We're not obligated, as the Court of Appeals said, to be in this business. So when you paid Muskegon County, you paid. You want the service, you pay for it. So that's not a very attractive option, I don't think, for our community. Option 2 is to maintain the status quo. Okay, you've seen the risk, though, to our taxpayers. And here's the problem and the interplay that I see between 2 and 1. How many years, if we have 3 deficits in a row, are our taxpayers going to put up with it before they say, go back to 1, we've had enough? You've raised our taxes to try to pay for the $15 million deficits over the last 2 years. We've had it. We're not going to put, we'll have some people from the Medicaid community demanding we stay in the business. The vast majority of people in Ottawa County are pounding the table saying, get out. We can't fund an entitlement program with our property taxes. We never expected that and we can't do it. So the other option, which is to try to maintain our services as much as we can while protecting our taxpayers as much as we can, is to create a single county CMH authority. Now, that's the model that we're talking about here. Another model could be joining with Kent. I'm not suggesting that. We could have a multi-county model. We're not, that could be, if you want to go in that direction, you may, but we've tried to preserve what we have with as much local control as we have through a single county authority. Now, what would this look like? It would look a lot like dispatch or the road commission. In your resolution creating an authority, you could appoint a separate board, independent of the mental health board. That's not the option I'm recommending. To protect our current system as much as possible, I'm saying the board of this authority should be the mental health board. The commissioners who are on it, the members of the public in the community, whether vendors or recipients, would have a stake at that table. So we keep the mental health board as our authority board.
Can I ask a question about option one at
Yeah.
the moment? So you put, you paired Medicaid and CCBHC together. So I saw one more option and it was, you could have had maybe the whole same paragraph, but maybe just quitting, CCBHC. So why did you put them together? Was it just to present as three options, or can
Yeah.
you,
No,
I would like to hear from either you or Dr. Bashirs on what that would look like if CCBHC, because I believe that was something that was brought in relatively new here to our county. And is that potentially one of the things that we should be looking at?
Yeah. And in my letter, I broke those out a little bit and said, we're expecting, you want us to be in this grant program because you're maximizing federal dollars that way. And you picked Ottawa County as one of the well-run CMHs to do that program. Surely you're not expecting our taxpayers to underwrite that program. Again, that's part of the crickets, okay? But you're right, Commissioner, that could be option 1A, is get rid of CCBHC, but that's become $14 million, and that's a pretty big.
But that's not every county or every CMA.
No, correct.
Okay.
But that could be 1A. You're right.
If we got rid of that, would our residents not be receiving services that they're presently receiving?
$14 million worth would go away.
I would just like further conversation on that to better understand what that looks like.
Yeah. That's fine. I mean, what we're trying to do today here is just, do we go further in the whole debate? Or do we just do the status quo and have a happy Thanksgiving and worry about this in, next year? If you could have the next slide, I just want to, this is where I elaborate kind of the model that we've developed as option 3. Single county governing board would be the mental health board. The mental health board would have more power because they would make final decisions on programs and vendors. What would the Board of Commissioners still do? Well, you would still make appointments to the mental health board. You would approve the millage ballot and levy. That would be your controls, and you would appropriate the general fund annually. Now, I'm going to drop to 7, and maybe you can, for Commissioner Medium, move the,
Regina.
yeah, move it up. I'm going to drop to 7 in a minute because it really is part of what the board's power still is. As with the road commission, you could always say, well, we're bringing, and I use an example here later on. Let's say, Kent went to Network 180 and they basically got rid of their employees and they became just kind of a contracting entity. That's because Mr. Habman former Kent. I mean, he really wanted to see this privatized, right? So in any event, let's say the mental health board and Michael decide, well, we're just going to be a contractor and we're going to eliminate our online staff. If the Board of Commissioners heard enough people complaining at meetings, they like our public health, we do it so well, why are we going in that direction? Then you would have the leverage to say, no, you're not going to do that. You still have a strategic role is what I'm trying to say. To say, no, we're going back to a department model if you're going to abuse what we think is the proper delivery system for CMH, you still have that power. So this is not like a lobster trap. Once you do it, you're in there and you can't get out. You always have a power to bring it back into the family. I view this as, is CMH part of our nuclear family or our extended family? But even as an extended family, they could be back into our nuclear family. Okay? And then we talk about what would happen. This is part of the 9 months. We would have to work out a contract with Michael to make sure that he's got IT, human resources, cash flow. There's a lot of details that administratively we provide at a cost to his program. We charge him indirect. We would continue to do that, but we would provide it. So there would be a contract between the county in the near term to provide those services so that they can function within a year.
Corporate counsel, can I ask a
Yeah.
question? Can I read from this document just a sentence? Thanks. So one of your, I think you have on page 4.
This is of the opinion.
Yes, and one of the potential positives. Point 3, it says forces the state to take more financial accountability for its Medicaid plan because it is responsible for deficits. Could you kind of flesh that out? Because I really don't understand what that means, because it seems to be saying if we go to an authority, then the state all of a sudden will become responsible for its deficits. In the status quo, they won't.
Right. So
That-
I fast forward quite a few slides to, will shifting risk to the authority make it vulnerable to collapse? And we have real life examples here, right? And this is what
Well, you're saying the opposite. You're saying that going to authority is a positive for the authority because the state will become all of a sudden, I wouldn't say magically, but somehow more responsive to an authority than it would to Ottawa County Department, CMH. So you're saying not only are you saying that,
think
you're saying
it
the
makes
opposite.
the state more accountable.
How would they keep it more accountable to an authority rather than to Ottawa County government?
Well,
Is there any examples of that?
it puts, well, in 2018, okay? At that time, Wayne County wasn't meeting with the legislators like Washington, Muskegon.
Well, I mean, Wayne
and
County and
Outlook.
Ottawa County are different. The sizes are.
No,
very
if
different,
they're
right?
an authority. And
Right.
so they had a deficit, but they were comfortable knowing that the state had pledged to pay for any deficit, that their needs were going to continue to be met because of the statutory protection. And so what I'm saying is and Dr. Bashirs is right, there's some abuses in this system, okay? The ALJs are a little bit divorced from reality of funding. But if the state is 100% responsible, it's not playing these accounting games with these ISFs and these regional entities, but it's stuck with the ultimate ISF of funding this, then those changes to the benefit levels will get made. And in 2018, Wayne County wasn't worried about its deficit because it had the statutory protection and the state was going to have to fund it. We actually got the benefit of that in a way in 19 because the state had to increase the funding model to keep the system going. And then we were able to cover our $2 million deficit. I don't know how much Muskegon was able to get back of the 12 million that they paid. I'm not sure they got all of it back.
I think I can offer simplistic answer to your question. The reason why the risk would be different is the state could not point to the county at all as an
They've
option.
never done that, right?
Yeah, I'm going to finish the
Okay,
statement
sorry.
before you
I
tell
just
me.
want to make sure that.
Right. So the state can't point to the county at all and say that you're on the hook for any part of the risk. Where an authority, it's a shared risk model and they know that, right? There have been many instances where the state has tried to tell the counties that the county departments that you have to do this. These are the examples he's talking about. Muskegon and Washtenaw are county departments in his argument. There's only 5 of us. So the reason why it gets confusing, and I've been in this system since 2000, is that the state won't provide the clarity needed besides lawsuit to get to the type of answer that you were saying. But even the CMH Board Association of Michigan, which is our trade union for all of them, have the legal position that authorities are in a shared risk model. And if you're a county department, you carry an additional risk. And so if you're not a county department, the state can't point to you when there's a Medicaid deficit at all, which is the crux of your argument. If you're an authority, we at least know that we're in a shared risk arrangement. Even though technically we're in one now, it's never been pushed besides in 2018, this issue of our counties on the hook for Medicaid deficits that the region can't cover or won't. So the easier answer for me is once you become an authority, the state has no statutory ability to point to the county department and say, you're on the hook. Well, right now, that's very unclear. They've had to be lawsuits when that's happened for the small group of us that are county departments.
In 2018, Commissioner Zylstra, the state defended that lawsuit by saying, Muskegon County, your general fund is going to pay for this. They defended it. They didn't say when they brought it, this isn't our obligation.
Right.
They were on the other side resisting that. So I offered a different legal theory than was offered by Muskegon. There are crickets on that. But to Muskegon County's arguments, they said, you're stuck with it. So we do have a real life example of the state saying, if you're a department, you're on the risk. And if even our brothers and sisters in the association think we're on the risk,
Right.
we're in kind of an awkward position.
Right.
They don't believe that I'm right, do they?
No, they don't.
Yeah,
And that is traditional Medicaid.
Yeah.
That's not CCBHC.
It's not CCBHC.
We were not in CCBHC then, so I think that comment about looking at separately, probably, because I think the risk is greater in CCBHC, where the county is at risk, and everybody says that we are.
So when
There is not anybody saying that we're not at risk in CCBHC.
At the MAC conference, month and a half ago in Traverse City, there was a breakout session on this issue. And I asked that question to try to understand what the risk was to the county. And it was very clear that counties that run as a department, CMH, are at high risk. And time was of the essence. I go, okay, that got my attention big time. So
Because for me, that's when this changed. CCBHC is different than the traditional Medicaid, at least as I always understood it, as Doug always talked. I mean, the lawsuit's one thing if you want to get into a big lawsuit and fight about it. But the CCBHC, they very clearly state you are at risk. I mean, we are directly billing Medicaid. There is no
Risk reserve at all.
there is no risk reserve. There is no monthly checks. There is no standard amount. It's not the same at all.
If we could go to the pros and cons of the authority model. So here's a list of what I think are some of the negatives if we go in this direction and some of the positives. The fundamental positive is it's the best way to preserve current level of service while minimizing the taxpayer's risk. Without a doubt, it clearly is. that balance is the best opportunity through an authority. Now, the organization itself, and this is where Dr. Bashir's, this is his bullet point and the next one down. He doesn't have to spend a lot of time driving between Fillmore and James Street.
Sure.
Okay? He minimizes those trips. He'll have to come here occasionally, once or twice a year, but he's not going back and forth, and there isn't that extra layer. And it's easier for Karen if she doesn't have to try to budget and anticipate for something that's so alien to an entitlement program to everything else we do. It forces the state to take more fiscal responsibility. This is what we've been talking about. The state has the statutory responsibility to cover the deficit if the LRE can't, or the LRE or the three that they're going to.
Right.
It's the one that underwrites the PIHP system. So there's less bureaucracy, makes the organization more nimble with 911 and with the road commission. This has made for better service. I think most people that look at it objectively would say that when you can focus just on your own program and you got a board that's focusing just on that program, you can deliver a better service than when you got another layer of bureaucracy that you have to convince. For our employees, the statute offers protections. Okay, we cannot diminish their wages for at least a year. We've talked with MERS about protecting the 31 people we have in a defined benefit program. Long-term, I would argue to them, we've done a wage study, right? You're aware of that, where they're getting compared to non-medical providers that work in the county. Long-term, their comparables are other medical care providers in the community mental health business. So long-term, it's more of a view that these are medical care providers, not Ottawa County governmental employees. I think as time would go on, they would be paid like medical care providers. You have a squaring of the market and CMH, which probably will benefit our healthcare providers in mental health.
Sure, and
what are the negatives? Well, it's got to come up with a lot of services that it's getting now, and that's the contract for the support services that we give them. We'll get our revenue as we're getting it from them more directly through our indirect cost charges. Will be direct charges to them. We're not talking about increasing it, but the same flow will be coming from that program back to West Olive for the IT, the HR we provide, the fiscal, cash flow, things like that. The Board of Commissioners has a little less control, all right? You still have the important things of appointing the mental health board and the millage and things like that, but let's face it, they are like the road commission, they are like on 911, we have representatives that act for us in those boards, but this board has slightly less involvement in the program.
yeah, I would say that when you look at pros and cons at this stage, these are general areas that need to be fully vetted. So the request is let's move forward and fully vet the impact of this, not necessarily say, oh, because we've shown you pros and negs, we're recommending this now. No, it's to dive deep. I just want to remind the county commissioners that all of the IT HR services that we have now, we pay for with the Medicaid fund. So there's not county general funds currently going to any of those departments to pay for any of my stuff. So it would be an impact more on the county side. I already got the revenue. I already paid for all the IT, HR, all of that with mental health fund dollars, not county gen fund dollars. So in the transition plan, because it takes a year, we might continue to contract with the county for those things, but after a year, we might not. And the funding's already there. It's mental health fund dollars anyway. And I need the public to understand that. It's not like it's being funded by something else and then we'd have to come up with the money to do it. No, we would keep the money we're already spending on it and spend it differently. And that's important to realize. No county general fund dollars are given to us to pay for those services that we would have to stand up. It's already in our budget. We're already paying for it. Now, are there efficiencies that we can gain by continuing to contract with the county? Sure. Or not. But it's a level of bureaucracy we got to deal with. So I just want to be clear. But for me, the stage of the game we're at is, hey, there's enough here for us to do a formal impact study and vetting of this to give to people to consider, and with scenarios like CCBHC, non-CCBHC, all of those things. I'm not viewing this meeting as getting you to yes and then rubber stamping something down the road. This is the beginning of a process, not the middle or end of it.
Yeah, the last thing I want to say substantively, and then we have a
Yeah.
critical path slide that will show the process if you decide to go forward, is we're talking about $66 million in a $250 million budget, okay? The federal government, believe it or not, is running a balanced budget on everything but Medicaid and Medicare. That's how big a problem it is for a government the size of the federal government. The question you have to ask yourself is, can we continue to operate an entitlement program that is a quarter, that is growing so large that it's now a quarter of our budget? And it seems to me that the risks of doing that are so great that you have to seriously consider this authority model that 78 other counties have adopted to continue the service, continue our ability to draw on these entitlements without exposing our taxpayers to that fundamental risk. So that last slide, critical path. If you want to go forward, but as I said, the debate in the public, 3 public hearings, there's no time sequencing of it, and I would suggest we do hearings in maybe Grand Haven and Holland and Georgetown, so we spread them out a little bit where people could come and we can talk about this. Doesn't have to be a full board meeting, but you would have chairman or vice chair there, and we would conduct the public meetings to debate these relative pros and cons. If then your decision is to go forward, you would pass a resolution creating the authority. By statute, that goes into effect 1 year later, unless the state approves an earlier transfer. And we, for Karen's sake, would try to make sure that we're able to spin the authority and create it by October 1st of 2026, okay? For accounting purposes, it would be so much smoother, which means we've got to get going on the debate, because if we're going to do that, and I think the state will want to see that even split in fiscal years as well. So, I mean, that's kind of
Let me ask you,
where we're at.
clarify. So if it takes us 6 months to debate the issue before we vote on the resolution, after the resolution, then it doesn't take effect for 9 more months after that? Is that what you said?
If you take 6 months to decide this issue,
Yeah.
you can forget about fiscal year 26,
I get it.
27.
I just want to walk through the
If
math.
we are to make this transition before not our current fiscal year, which seems like we just entered, but the next fiscal year, you've got to be moving the process along.
Within the first quarter, we have to make this decision.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Can you explain a little bit more what you said about the 3 public hearings being across the county? And then you mentioned how perhaps the whole board didn't have to be there. In all of my times with public hearings, we have had a whole board present and they've always been here. So can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, the statute doesn't require, it doesn't detail where you hold the hearings or how you hold them. Okay, so it wouldn't automatically obligate you. You could do them here. You know, that's up to the board to decide if you're going to go down this path, how you want to structure that debate. You could do it 3 times here on 3 different nights. You could do it over 3 different months. Forget about fiscal year 26, 27 then. I was simply suggesting that you may want to have 3 different settings where you're holding the public hearings so that you can, and they would be in effect board meetings, but you don't need a quorum because you're not making any decision. You're simply opening it up for public comment.
I would
All
just
of you
think
could
that,
attend. I think it's great.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that you hold them in 3 different areas because some people can't come to the middle of West Ottawa, but you could do it here if you want. It's up to you.
thanks.
Dr. Brashear has used the term fully vet, and he used the term formal impact study. How do you see us going forward if we voted or gave you the authorization to move to the next step? What would that next step look like, do you think?
We had a detailed impact study done in 2016. The reality is, you're not deciding if this is feasible. 78 counties have done it. All right. I think you should hold the public hearings, but the issues are pretty much as presented here. Can we do it? Yeah, we can do it. What is the impact? We've talked about the cons. We talked about the need for an agreement. The issue is really strategic. What do you want to do? And you can wait for some sort of study. The reality is, what are you waiting for? I mean, it's up to you as to how long you want to take in this process. But I don't see the need, candidly, for an impact study because so much of this is been laid out here, and others have done it. And so we have 78 models.
I think the devil's in the details on the transition plan, and that's where we have the staff and the resources to come back with a good plan where we work with CMH on that pretty quickly.
Dr. Brashear, what are you thinking on this?
Well, I concur with what's being said, but however, I will definitely, as the CMH CEO, do an analysis of potential impact to consumers, potential impact to staff, potential impact to the community, potential impact to the program, not in the same way that the study was done back in 2016, but to flush those out and gain feedback from stakeholder groups on if they concur with me. I've already had an all-staff meeting on the potential of becoming an authority and created a table of the areas that we'd have to look at to ensure that they understand what this means. So while I agree that it's not a feasibility study, I would attend, and I could do relatively quickly, an analysis from our point of view, the impact to clients, the public, all of those areas. It won't take months, but, and a lot of the stuff is self-evident as here, but I owe that to the.
And I think hopefully it was made clear today, we didn't expect a decision on this. We wanted to inform the board and get a consensus that's a lot of work. And we don't want to go down that road
Right.
of even doing that work without, yes, this makes sense. Come back to us with a plan that we can respond to.
Jim, what are you thinking?
I just have a question on possible transition. We have a community mental health millage, which is set to expire next year. To be renewed would have to be on the ballot sometime next year. There's lead time on all this stuff. How would that work? What would that look like?
That work would continue the same, and there'd be no change if you're an authority or a department on the millage. But we still have to do all those efforts too. It has to get back on the budget, on the ballot. We have to do it. Same thing, but because one of the other CMHs in the state is an authority that has a millage. We were the first, of course, and it didn't impact it at all. The county's role is the same. The process is the same.
Okay.
Doesn't impact it.
All right, good.
We have
Thank you.
asked though, for sure.
The only thing I would say to that point is we intentionally, when that millage was made, we made a commitment to our taxpayers that we weren't going to use it in the entitlement program. So in our ballot, we kind of exclude using that money for Medicaid deficits.
Hmm.
Okay, so are you going to go with that same restriction if we're going to continue as a department? I'm not sure your taxpayers want to see that. I mean, basically, their general fund would be from other taxes. They're going to be using that money to offset the deficit. And so they might accuse you of fraud. Well, you said the millage wasn't going to be used for the Medicaid program, and now we find out it's kind of like the lottery, right? Every dollar goes to education. Well, every dollar there's a general fund take back, right? So be careful. I think there is. It shouldn't affect it, but maybe it has to affect this decision.
And again, the timing of that is good, because we're talking about this right now.
Yeah, the CMH board this morning had a discussion on the millage, right?
Correct,
And you guys will be putting that ballot proposal, will have to come to this board for
Yep.
approval. So whatever you guys think would be appropriate to
Yeah,
make all
and
this.
just remember, the millage is to ensure the community and community mental health and not the Medicaid health plan. And so that's why it was needed in 2016 when we did it, and it's needed now. It's to fill in the gaps, right? It's not supposed to supplement Medicaid programming.
Right.
Or bear the risk that we just saw of that. And since I've been here over a little bit over a year, we've been really looking at millage, how to do it. But yes, that it stays the same, the process stays the same, but just, I know we're not talking about millage. The millage is now needed more than ever. The conditions are worse than they were in 2016 when this was coming up for our people.
Allison?
Another question on the path. So I'm hearing that if this board chooses to go forward and to hear some more, Dr. Brashears had put together some more evidence, when will that take place? Will we schedule our hearings simultaneously at the same time that you're putting together the work? Are we going to schedule another meeting as a board first before we schedule the hearings, taking into consideration the time frame? So what are the thoughts on that?
Well, I think the goal here is to minimize the effect.
Right.
Part of the reason why I think an impact study is, well, it's a huge impact if we just cut them loose and don't support them.
Right.
Right? We don't provide IT and all that. You're gone, goodbye, huge problem. We're not talking about that in our model.
Right.
So a lot of the impacts we've taken away in the model we're recommending. One county mental health board to minimize the changes there, protecting our employees. That's part of our dedication to minimizing the impact. You can do your study, but the global idea of whether we go in this direction, I would argue the time is such we've got to do both at the same time.
Yeah, I would agree. To me, one of the biggest impact is to CMH employees. I owe it to them to at least outline the different domains and how we would mitigate any potential harm. And so I'm not saying I need 6 months to do that. What I'm saying is that has to be part of this, but you can have public hearings focused on authority status versus department, but people got to know what exactly they're coming to talk about. So you come in and go, oh, all right, okay, so what is it again? And I think some of the public hearings is a basic education of what the differences are between a department and authority and getting feedback. Because to me, the public hearing isn't just, and I'm not saying you're suggesting it's just this, it's to really get them to give us stakeholder feedback on what you're saying. Have you thought about this, this, and that? And one of the biggest stakeholder groups is going to be CMH employees. And I think that in a very relatively straightforward manner, I can say authority, department, authority, mitigation to deal with impact. but being honest with them. And I already had, just so the people know, an introductory all-staff meeting on the differences between an authority and a department, because I had talked to my board about it and the word was out. And so all 100 and something CMH employees are on that call. They understand, oh, that's what you're deciding. And they have questions. And I think between all of the issues here, we can easily say, here's the difference, here's how to mitigate it. I've been very impressed, just as a CMH director that's not a direct employee of this particular board, of the level of care and even the discussion we've had internally administratively of, we have to ensure that services remain intact, and we have to make sure people are not hung out to dry. And it's one of the reasons why we've stayed a county department for so long. But sooner or later, it gets to the point where you're like, okay, right? But I just want to let the commissioners know, even in just general discussions, I've never once felt like the CMH director, I'm being told, well, you must become an authority because we don't want to bear the risk. That has not been the message to me. And I haven't been going to them saying, you must become an authority because I want all the power. It isn't that. It's coming together and figuring out what the real benefit would be for such a time as this. So I know I know I'm obligated to see, my board will fire me if I don't, and they're the ones that can fire me, by the way, that if I don't do a basic analysis of the impact to the CMH staff, who under the mental health code, I'm in charge of. So it won't be this comprehensive 68-page thing, but it's going to be enough in combination with this information to give us something to talk about at public hearings. And that's kind of my take on it. But I just want to assure this commission that I will be doing a modified version of that, because I don't think my CMH board will let me do otherwise. And I wouldn't do it anyways. And I know they won't. Even though the CMH board has nothing to do with the decision. They could all say no, even we don't want this. And it's purely the county commissioner's decision. And it's designed for good reasons. Because what Doug didn't tell you is Washtenaw was one of those people that weren't a county department that were brought back into the county. And then they had to deal with this issue because they were a county department again. So, it's happened once where you were a county, you separated from the arm's length, become an authority, and then they brought you back in. And they found themselves right in the middle of this debate in 2018, where Muskegon was already a county department, and we were too.
So Dr. Brashears, I think that probably all of us in the community at large, the employees, the patients and that you serve would all benefit by seeing something like your proposal putting together. So I would encourage you to do that, would help us. I like the fact that as I'm listening to all of this, that this is a collaborative effort to minimize the financial risk to the taxpayers, to protect the employees, and not to compromise our service to those that need us, right? Those are the objectives. Seems pretty clear. I would, we're in an open session. I don't know if we need a motion. I think we just direct our administrator with a consensus to move forward, to put together some type of strategic plan that you can come back, give us your time frame on what you think's appropriate when you have something to present, and let's just keep this ball moving quickly. It sounds like, in order to make it effective before the next fiscal year, as I'm hearing it.
I think for clarity, I think we should have a motion. That would be my one,
Fine.
I think for the public's sake, I think it would be great to have something on record.
I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to create a proposed timeline for the review and consideration of the conversion, you might have to fix that word, conversion of the Ottawa County Department of Community Mental Health to an authority, and to present that timeline at the December Board of Commissioners meeting for consideration.
What about the development?
Open to tweaking that.
What about the development of the plan itself? The timeline assumes we're moving. Maybe for a proposed strategy? What are you thinking, Patrick?
I gave you some suggested language. I don't know if you want to read that as a motion.
Got some different ideas.
Well, I didn't know you had one prepared. I was just trying to scribble. So.
Can I offer, can I offer one thought?
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure. I appreciated what Patrick had said just a few minutes ago. I appreciate receiving the information. I felt a little differently. I don't necessarily feel like we have to vote on anything, but mostly because I really want more information before we vote. If there's a motion, I'll vote yes on it, but I also don't necessarily think we have to.
Yeah, I think the intent of the motion is just to give me, go forth, do this work and bring it back to us as a directive. That would make it clear that I can work with staff to assign tasks and responsibilities accordingly.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I'm
That
comfortable.
makes sense.
Do you have a draft motion there, John? You wanna?
I've got, just like you do.
Mine
You're throwing yours off the
I hope
table.
yours is better.
Nobody seconded it, so I guess it's.
Yeah.
So here's an idea. Motion to authorize the county administrator to develop and return to the board with a proactive recommended strategy intended to minimize the financial risk to taxpayer dollars, retain quality employees, and ensure the continuation of quality mental health services to our community. With a timeline.
The timeline.
With a timeline.
Can you read it one more time?
Yeah. Looking at Rachel. You listening real careful?
It's important.
All right. I know. I'm reading something, so I give it to you. Motion to authorize the county administrator to develop and return to the board with a proactive recommended strategy intended to minimize the financial risk to taxpayer dollars, retain quality employees, and ensure the continuation of quality mental health services to our communities with a timeline.
I'll second that. I like that better than mine. It's like it was prepared in advance.
So I got brought a motion, he seconded, discussion, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, corporate counsel has been helpful in kind of elaborating some of his points in the memo as well as the slideshow. I mean, I think that the crux of it is the financial risk to the county, right? Right. So, like I said, since I've been here as a commissioner, I've been told that we don't have a financial risk. And now I'm being told that we do have a financial risk. And not to say that I wouldn't vote for this motion eventually, but until I see a legal opinion that says, no, you are at financial risk and here's why, right? Then it'd be very hard for me to say, let's go forward on something if I don't see the rationale laid out legally.
Here's the problem, Doug. I wish my profession was like accounting or math. I've given you the opinion that I don't think your general fund is at risk. No one in the state believes me. And Muskegon County sued, different theory, but lost.
Okay.
And so I can continue to give the same opinion, but the state won't confirm that I'm right.
How
And
about,
that's
so
the
how about
problem.
we just kind of get a condensation of that information in front of us and say, look, in 2018, there was a lawsuit. The state of Michigan supported this idea. Chair Depot said there was a breakout and this trade group said X, right? I think having that in front of us would be very helpful to me, at least, to say, look, what we've been told may not be the case, and we may need to go down this road. But, for me, the crux of the matter is, are we at legal risk? And it seems like there's a big question mark there, right? So I'll be voting no just because, I would like to see that before I vote yes.
Well,
And not to say that I won't support this in the future, but I'd like to see that first.
Okay.
but the vote is not it's just to put a plan together to keep this thing moving.
Well, to me, the plan is based on the rationale for the plan, which is a legal risk, right? I mean, we're doing this because corporate counsel is saying we are at legal risk. And so I'd like to see that before we take the step for the plan. Not to say I wouldn't vote for the plan going forward, but I would like to see that first.
Yeah, the 78 counties, the 4 I helped before, they went for administrative reasons into authorities. For 42 years, I sleep at night worried about the county's general fund.
I totally get that. I
and
appreciate
protect
that.
it. Okay, and so I am here. My motivation is try to protect services, protect our employees, my fellow employees. But my biggest concern is I see you at risk and no one else in the state believes that I'm right. I still believe I'm right, but I can't guarantee that the courts will agree with me. And you don't want to be in that situation where then you have to fund this huge thing unless you're doing it in a very knowing manner.
Right, yeah.
So I will put together
I
your
appreciate that.
opinion.
That's all I'm at.
You can look at it.
Yep.
And
Appreciate
I
that.
firmly believe it. It's just I can't guarantee it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Probably a good lawyers do it all the time, don't we? Can't guarantee the result, but here's my opinion. So, okay. Are we ready to vote on this motion as I read it? Yeah? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? One opposed. You got it,
I got
Patrick?
it.
It's up to you to kind of lead us now as to where we go
Thank you.
on this. Okay.
And hopefully you can appreciate why this caught my attention early when I got here.
Yeah.
Like, this is a big
Mhm.
deal. The board needs to know about it,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, well, thank you, everybody. Dr. Bashir, thank you for helping us. Doug, thank you very much. Okay, we're back to the agenda then. We're continuing. Committee reports, do we have any? No? Okay, so this is the second public comment time. Anyone else like to address the board?
I think that shows that you do care about transparency. And I'm slightly disappointed in the commissioner's chairman that wanted to keep this still under wraps. Clearly, this didn't need to be hidden because I didn't see anything that was that confidential. And I question what's in the legal writing that's so confidential too, but teach their own. And I want to be clear, I'm not opposed to this change, but I'm pretty opposed to unclear change. And I'm still kind of confused on what the specific problem the authority model is supposed to solve. Because switching to authority does not bring in new Medicaid dollars. It does not bring in new state dollars. And there is no evidence that becoming an authority fixes workforce shortages. It doesn't fix wait lists. It doesn't fix surging residential costs. Those problems, as we've been mentioned before through here, that's a state level funding decision. It's not from whether CMH is an agency or an authority. Now, I know some of the justifications being used today is that under MCL 330-1205 and 330-1208, an authority has certain statutory protections that limit county liability if the state cancels funding. Now, that is true, but it is also very incomplete. I think that is unfortunate that we aren't going to go fully into it, but the statute limits the county's match. It does not guarantee that the authority itself cannot experience deficits. Thank you, Doug, for making that clear. It does not guarantee that the authority doesn't experience instability or service reductions from Medicaid cuts. It doesn't guarantee us that we won't have workforce shortages. It doesn't guarantee us anything, except that, oh, the county's general fund doesn't have to match it. It's a risk mitigation clause, not a guarantee of financial stability or service improvement. So I'd like to hear how exactly will this structural change protect services during all the other scenarios that statute does not cover? Right now, the only guaranteed effect of switching models is this: it would cap our county's required contribution. That might protect our budget, but it also increases the risk, and this is a risk that we should be talking about too, that Ottawa invests less in mental health over time at a moment when demand is rising, especially in our youth. Meanwhile, I want to talk about the mental health millage because voters overwhelmingly approve that. So I'm confused. If CMH becomes an authority, I want concrete promises that in writing that the millage dollars will remain fully protected, restricted, and accountable to the community that pays them. I'm also confused. A separate authority means a separate board. What safeguards will you guys prevent political turnover from destabilizing the system? We've seen how that works here. What guarantees insurers, consumers, families, and clinicians will have a voice there? And what mechanisms prevent this restructuring from becoming the first step, which I think this is an even bigger concern, towards regional consolidation or privatization down the road? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online, Gina? Oh.
Hi, Chantal Martineau, Park Township. I just wanted to return to some of the comments at the beginning of the meeting about transparency and what the purpose of this meeting was. It was not made clear to me watching it why there was an emergency meeting called with another full board meeting due to take place in 2 business days. There was a presentation about that during which Mr. Van Essen said, I'm sorry, my notes are not very legible. Well, I can't read my notes, but but he referred to a 9 to 12-month time frame. So I'm not sure why 2 days makes a difference in the 9 to 12-month time frame that you have to deliberate on this. So it was either he or Mr. Waterman who said that he was directed to write up this opinion, and I would like to know who directed him to write this opinion. That was not entirely clear. And also, just to return to the Open Meetings Act, the purpose, as I understand it, and as I understand one of the commenters at the beginning of the meeting referred to, the purpose of the Open Meetings Act is to ensure that meetings take place in the open, in the view of the public. This meeting was, according to the agenda, the purpose of it was to go into closed session to have a discussion on the topic of what we now know is to whether or not to convert the CMH to a mental health authority, or as Mr. Van Essen said, to start the discussion about whether to discuss having this. And then there was a rather lengthy presentation that seemed to be pretty strongly weighted in favor of converting to an authority. But as Oliver just pointed out, there doesn't seem to be any reason for that beautiful slideshow to have been hidden from the public. So I would just like to encourage you all to schedule meetings more regularly in the next session. Seems like 1 board meeting a month is not enough for you guys to take care of business and to conduct that business in view of the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, moving on the agenda, Patrick?
Yeah, just a few updates. It's been a month on the job now, believe it or not. It's gone really fast. Just where I'm at right now, I'm wrapping up. I've been spending a lot of time meeting with department heads and elected officials, just kind of looking at 3 to 5 years for them, what's out, what's on the horizon, establishing those relationships, getting tours of the departments and seeing the facilities. Next is you guys. I'll be reaching out to all of you to try to schedule some time to do the same. We are also trying to lock in the dates. This is very important for that strategic plan. And I know Regina's got a doodle poll out. That's a tough one because it's a 1.5-day commitment. But from what I heard from you, it is important. So I'm hoping we can find some time to get that on the schedule. So I don't know where that's at, but please, if you haven't responded, try to do that. Other than that, I thought it'd be good to share. I met with Commissioners Moss and Mead about kind of the current issue of renewable energy siting, which is a big topic in Ottawa County right now. You're all familiar with what's happening in Blendon. They have a great idea, and I think it's really worth pursuing, of really doing some more education to our local units on this matter. So we are putting together a panel discussion with staff, Lou Hunt and Joe Bush from the water and emergency side. We're going to invite our local legislators in. We're going to ask Bob DeVries to come in, talk about PA 233, how it affects the siting of these facilities, and just be a kind of an open discussion to help educate and better inform the decision makers so that they can go back to their respective townships. It's really aimed towards townships where they've got the land to do these things. So we're shooting for mid-December. We'll make sure we get all that information out to the group, but working on putting that together right now.
Good, thank you. Commissioner comments? Joe, you want to start?
Just briefly, sure. One key phrase I think I heard today was the county should not fund or operate an entitlement program. Thought that was helpful. And I think for me personally, high level on a lot of the discussion today, which was very helpful, so thank you, my opinion is that there absolutely does need to be large scale changes. Doug talked about that at the federal level, the state level, and it is going to impact the local level. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, next year, 3, 4 years down the road, 8 years. I don't know, but it needs to happen at the federal level I think we just hit 38 trillion in deficit or whatever. So I do think there'll be huge changes. And so going through some of this work now to make sure we're not just protecting residents and taxpayers, but the recipients of these programs, that is, I think, the driving factor for why we need to look at it. So that's it.
No, I'll say I think we definitely need to do this. So, thank you to both of you for bringing it up.
Can echo some of that. I appreciate the conversation that we had today. I appreciate the presentation from both corporate counsel as well as Dr. Brashears and Patrick, your involvement as well. I appreciate the questions that the public asked today. I would say that one of the questions that they asked did not get answered, and I think one of them had talked about why the necessity for today versus next week. And it's my understanding that key staff that presented today is Thanksgiving week next week. And so that was something to take into consideration, that potentially a couple people may not have been able to be here next week. And when you look at the 9 to 12 month timeline, and we only have one board meeting a month currently, that is just something to take into consideration of why. And then a question that I will have to go forward is something just to weigh in, and I'm sure some of the other, I would say, I'm guessing general public may have, is what would happen if we stayed in the same boat of going as a county department and you just choose not to pay for a budget deficit with general funds, because that's my understanding of what happened in Muskegon, but then they chose to sue the state after that. Well, what would happen if we just chose not to do that? And we, I guess, what would happen? What would be the worst case scenario? And is there a reason why a county wouldn't decide to go down this new road later if it determines that the state isn't picking up the slack? And so that's just another thing that I would like fleshed out a little bit more, because that was not really presented today. And I do look forward to having more conversations about this really important topic.
I guess two comments, two lines of thinking. One on the closed meeting session minutes. I have, or excuse me, not minutes of holding a closed session. I rely on the advisement of corporate counsel between Mr. Van Essen and actually Ron Bolche, who between them have close to 8 decades of experience with the OMA. So I have no doubt that had we gone into closed session, we would have been fine. And having said that as well, I understand that given the past in the county, there's definitely some concern with closed session. So I understand that as well. Having served on Grand Haven's commission for a number of years, there were numerous times when we went into closed session and it was not an issue whatsoever. And we followed the law just as I believe the plan was, or as we would have done today. So as far as the topic for the day, I'm going to echo a number of comments that were made here and just add on that from my perspective, what I've heard, and again, I appreciate more time to review it, but streamlining service delivery, reducing bureaucracy, which is going to reduce overall expenses and free up resources to better meet the needs of our community. And then shifting the financial risk from Ottawa County taxpayers to the state. To me, that's huge because we're elected to serve the residents of Ottawa County first. And then on top of that, having had conversations with our state legislators at a couple of quarterly meetings, and even speaking with an individual who I have the utmost respect for, Mark Huizinga, incredibly smart individual. When we brought to his attention the issues with the PIPs and whatever these other things are, I said, what's it going to take for the state to figure this out? And there were nothing but crickets. He said, this is such a big issue when it comes to funding that the state sorting out how to help fund the county's CMH board, don't count on that. So my takeaway from that was that we need the protection that's offered here, and provided services levels are maintained, I think this is a great opportunity for us. So, but that said, I look forward to more discussion. Sorry, I had one more. I do like the idea of having these meetings in the different quadrants of Ottawa County, requiring people to come here to listen in and to give their feedback. Yes, we can do that, but boy, if we could get out in the public in the north and the south and the east, I think that's a great idea. So, yeah, those were my comments.
Yeah, no, sorry. Regarding the closed versus open session, I am glad that we did have this presentation open session. I think folks who are here and folks who are online, I think that's very productive. And I just want to say thank you to the fellow commissioners who voted to make sure that happened, right? So.
I would agree with some of the comments from Commissioners Elstra and Bruger. I did vote to stay in closed session, but I think this was a very constructive, helpful, useful discussion. I think it was good to introduce a lot of this to the community. It was a good day today. And I also want to take just a moment to use my perch to say how much I'm enjoying Ken Burns' American Revolution series on PBS. And it's premiering this week, and I'm sure there'll be other opportunities to see it. Now, I don't believe tax dollars.
Channel 2 so we can all find it. Where is it? Is it PBS?
PBS.
Oh, okay, cool.
I will say I don't.
Powered by GVSU.
Of course, a service of Grand Valley State University. Very good.
That was good.
But I don't believe tax dollars need to go to PBS, but that my wife and I were happy to be sustaining contributors to public broadcasting because of the quality of the programming that's there. And I would encourage everybody else to take part in the programming and support PBS.
Sorry. Thank you. So I make sure everyone gets their chat.
Remember your microphone, Kendra.
Yes, I was just waiting till they finished. I just wanted to say, I'm thankful for those that voted to do this in the open for public viewership. I think that was very important. And also, I found both this meeting and the CMH meeting extremely helpful in providing some of that transparency, as well as a plethora of much needed information and clarification. So thank you.
So I just want to note that I think the high level driver behind the situation that these counties, our counties are finding themselves in, is that we have a steady increase in the needs in two specific areas. One is the cost of residential care and the need for that care, and the ever increasing rates of autism. So those two specific needs are really what are behind these deficits that counties are facing, including Kent. Those changes and those needs are not going to go away. And so as Medicaid changes, these needs are not going to change. And so I think that's important to note, because we need to not only look at solving, how do we shore up the county and be careful with risks, but we also need to look at how are we going to ensure that the needs of our people are funded and met. And so I would also ask that we would task Bob DeVries to really advocate on this issue, that there fundamentally needs to be a change of how we fund CMH, and that it needs to be funded to meet the needs of the people, not based on Medicaid rates, because that's why Ottawa County is falling so short. That's why Kent County is falling so short. So we need the whole funding model changed.
Can I just speak to that? I
Yes.
had lunch with Bob yesterday. He's aware of this, and
Okay.
when I had lunch with him, our deficit discussion was around $2 million. Now it's 5.5. So
Yes.
he knows he's taking that message to Lansing, trying to get that funding, but we'll continue to pound that home.
Great, great. Yes, and as we've discussed, we didn't get into it too much, but there's this whole overhaul in CMH, the whole system right now being looked at, but that's not even going to fundamentally change things until they start to look at funding based on needs instead of Medicaid. And then lastly, I really am looking forward to seeing the impact study. I think that it is super important for staff and for the community. These are our most vulnerable, and they don't need more stress in their lives, you know, worrying about whether or not they're going to have services. So I think it's important that we're really transparent about what this is going to look like, especially for our staff. And that's why I voted to hold this in open session today, because I think there are a lot of concerns, you know, within staff and within the community. And I think it was really important for them to hear this conversation, so things don't feel quite so scary. So that's all I've got.
So I'll just finish it up. Appreciate everybody's comments, the public's comments as well. I think that this board has been pretty clear and consistent all year about how we view transparency. This is the first special meeting that I can remember we had all year, and it's the 11th month of the year that we felt, the administration felt that we should have a special meeting. We do take our direction, and we can look back at this meeting and say, geez, did it really have to be closed? But you don't know that sometimes going in, right? That's why you have the statute that gives you that flexibility. You just don't know. It turned out it was a good thing that we did it in the public. There was nothing, but we don't know that and second guess it. But I'm glad that it was aired. But I also think it's consistent with how we've been operating time and time again throughout the whole year.